All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for this event. My name is Nicole Gonzalez, and I will be assisting you guys with the webinar. And I will also be assisting you in the chat. Just so you know, we will be muting everyone in the chat just so it's easier for the presenters and so everybody can clearly listen to the presentation. We're about to start recording this presentation in case you want to look back at it again later, or you would like to share with somebody who you know will be interested in this program. um the recording will be available. We will share it with you guys after, and as well as the presentation. Again, my name is Nicole Gonzalez. I'm the homeowner help desk let me just move. I'm the homeowners help desk counselor here at Cypress Hills LDC, and now I will be introducing the rest of the team that will be presenting. Rosalinda, you can go ahead.
You're muted.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rosalinda Gutierrez, the Foreclosure Prevention Counselor here at Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation. And we're here tonight to give you some information about the new rent relief program. And we also have Renee.
Hey, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Buenas tardes, buenas. Feliz año, Happy New Year. Really happy you were able to join this evening. We're going to be trying to clarify, give you some basic information about the New York State's Housing Community Renewal Office rent relief extension program. And I just want to mention a couple of quick things. We work with the Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation's Housing Counseling Division. And of course, I must mention Cypress Hills Local Development Corp was established in 1983, provides, multiple services to like youth and families, as well as programs such as community development, economic workforce development, small business development, and more. Now I'd like you to introduce Tricia Lendor from Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A. Tricia.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Happy New Year. Thank you, everyone from Cypress Hills Local Development Corp for inviting me to do this webinar with you. I am a Deputy Unit Director at Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A. Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A is a nonprofit law firm that provides free civil legal services to tenants, homeowners, small business owners, community-based organizations, as well as like small businesses. And the Preserving Affordable Housing Unit, we represent tenants who are facing eviction in landlord-tenant court, as well as in NYCHA administrative proceedings. And we also start affirmative litigation on behalf of tenants who need repairs or are being harassed by their landlords. And now, if we don't have any further introductions of anyone else that's part of the team, we're going to jump right in with some questions and answers that we're going to answer. Now, these questions we're about to answer are pre-approved questions that we're going to provide some answers to. However, the audience will be allowed to ask questions of their own. However, we just ask that you put your questions in the chat box, and we'll address those after we're done with providing information about the COVID rent relief extension program. So we're going to start off with our first question. So Renee, what is the New York State Rent Relief Extension Program?
So thanks for that question. New York State COVID-19 Rent Relief Extension Program is designed or developed actually back in July with funding from the federal government to provide eligible households one-time rental subsidies that will be sent directly to the owners of the properties where the renters, tenants live. Applicants will not need to repay this type of assistance. It's not a loan. Households, families can apply for up to 4 months in rental assistance. And let me also mention that the program applications will be accepted from now until February 1st, 2021. And of course, we're going to continue to provide you with more information and key aspects of the programs. Just want to repeat, please type your questions, if any, in the chat box, and we will respond to those questions at the conclusion of the presentation. Thanks. And next.
Trisha?
Yes, the next question is, who is eligible for this program?
Nicole, can you go to slide 4? Okay, so people that are found eligible for this new rent relief program, you must be a renter, have your primary residence here in the state of New York. You've had to had some loss of income during the pandemic crisis between the months of April 1st and July 31st of 2020. You must show that you've had some rent burden during those months to apply. The applicants, at least one member of the household, including children, should be a U.S. citizen or an eligible immigration status to qualify for the subsidy. And also, they do have income requirements. You need to be below 80% of the area median income. And that we will show further in our presentation what the income requirements are per household.
In addition, again, the applications will be accepted from now and up until February 1st, 2021. The applications are only going to be processed online. They can only be submitted online. Applicants will be required to upload, proof of income, identity, proof of the rent that you're paying, a lease, or some other sort of contract that states, the rent that you're expected to be paying, etc. Also, I must mention that previous applicants who had applied back in July of 2020 for the first rent relief program assistance, those applications are the folks who might have been denied, or maybe their applications are still in transit, they're still in the pipeline, but they never really got a response or from the state's housing office. Those applications will be processed, and those folks will not need to reapply. Determination letters will be sent to the folks who have had either denials or simply have had their applications in the pipeline and they never really learned about the outcome of the application process. I want to mention that New York State Housing and Community Renewal will prioritize eligible households with the greatest economic and social needs. The application process is not based on, first come, first serve basis. Key point, again, I know we said it already, applicants must have lost income during the period between April 1st, 2020 and July 31st, 2020. Thank you.
Thanks, Renee.
Additionally, do you want to cover that, Rosalinda?
Sure. When a tenant applies for this rent relief program, the property owners must accept this. So it's a form of a check to help pay what's, the portion of the rent. But if you are receiving any type of rental assistance, if you have Section 8 or in your public housing, you won't be eligible to get this additional assistance. If you have a Section 8 voucher and lost your income, you must request some type of adjustment for the new portion. So the portion of the rent would be less because now your income has decreased. And again, the rent subsidy would cover the months that Renee had mentioned, April 1st, 2020 till July 31st, 2020.
Okay. Next question is, do you have to be a U.S. citizen to apply for the COVID rent relief extension program?
Yeah, so as mentioned before, at least one person in the household, again, including the children, has to be either a U.S. citizen or have eligible immigration status. So if the parents are undocumented, but they do have children or have a child born here in the U.S., yes, they definitely could apply for this benefit and be able to get it.
And what documentation does a person need to apply for this program?
Okay.
So documents needed include, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, proof of identity, like driver's license or non-driver's license, state ID, a lease, or proof of a rental contract, proof of rent payments prior to March 1st, 2020. Proof of household income has to be submitted, such as pay stubs, a letter from an employer, a W-2 form, most recent tax return, IRS Form 1040, or other proof of income will be accepted, including the program has a letter, I should say a form, where the applicant states what their income has been or is currently, has been and is currently. It's a letter of attestation where the person is declaring, because you would only do that unless you don't have those other documents that are listed in the slide, right? Like the pay stubs and so on. But they would accept the letter of attestation where you state I earned X amount per month or I'm earning X amount per year. At this time, applications are available online only, and you'll need to use the online preliminary eligibility calculator to get a online message that says, oh, it looks like you might be eligible to apply for the rent relief.
So how much rental arrears will be paid by the program?
That's a great question. Nicola, could you show slide 11, please? No, this is great. Yeah, we'll keep this slide, number 13. Okay, we'll start with 11. Thank you. So yes, so as an initial matter, eligible households, they will receive a one-time rent subsidy payment. And the subsidy for eligible applicants will be calculated as the difference between the household's rent burden on March 1st, 2020, and the household's rent burden during the months of April, May, June, and July of 2020. Please note that applicants must be rent burdened during the months they are applying for assistance between April 1st, 2020 to July 31st, 2020. Significantly, the subsidy will be calculated to give a household in excess of 30% of their rent burden threshold during the months of the coverage period. This one-time subsidy is paid directly to the property owner. And rent burden is defined as the amount of the monthly contractual rent that exceeds 30% of the gross household income. Nicola, could you show slide 13, please?
Yeah, Trisha, yeah, can you explain a little bit more what would be 30% of gross monthly income?
Yes, I will. So this is the example. So let's say prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, a household's total monthly income was approximately $3,000 and their monthly rent was $700. So you could calculate that to show that the household was paying about approximately 23% of their monthly income toward rent. Because this household was only paying 23% of their total gross monthly income towards rent, this shows DHCR that the household was not rent burdened prior to COVID-19. In other words, this household was able to show that they were paying less than 30% of the gross monthly income towards rent. Now let's change the hypothetical to show that the same household, due to COVID-19, their work hours were reduced and the monthly income was decreased to $1,400 a month for the coverage period of April, May, June, July of 2020. Now the rent was still $700 a month. However, now the household was paying about 50% of their monthly income toward the rent during the appropriate coverage period. Now, this household, because they're paying 50% of their total gross income towards the rent, this means they qualify as being rent burdened. And that means they're eligible for this subsidy. And the subsidy would cover the increase in the rent burden, which is in excess of 30%. So what does that mean? Let's calculate that. That means we first calculate the maximum rent burden threshold based on the reduced income during the coverage period. The reduced income is $1,400 times 30% or 0.3, and you would get $420. So what that means is that DHCR would give a subsidy in the amount in excess of $420 that this household spent on rent. Let me show you. So you would take the $420, which represents 30% of this family's income, and you would subtract the $420 from the monthly rent. And the difference that you get would mean that is the amount of the subsidy this family would receive. So $700, which is the monthly rent, subtract $420, which is 30% of the family's income, you would get $280. So the DHCR would give the family $280 for the months of April, May, June, and July of 2020 to show that, well, not to show, but as a way to compensate the family for paying in excess of 30% of their rent burden for the applicable time period.
Right, right.
Thanks, Trisha. And how do I apply?
Nicola, could you please turn to slide 10? Thank you so much. As mentioned before, you can only apply via the online HCR website. When you do apply online, you have to go through like a preliminary eligibility calculator process, which calculates whether you are rent burdened or whether your household is rent burdened. And if the preliminary eligibility calculator determines that you are eligible for the subsidy, you will then need to create a username and password to access the online application. In addition, you'll also have to upload documents in connection with your application, such as the documents we spoke about earlier, like proof of identity, a lease, or something to show that you are a tenant, as well as the other applicable documents we mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
sorry.
No,
sorry, Rosalinda.
No, I was gonna ask another question. Are you done with this one?
Yeah, okay, yes, significantly. If you live with one or more roommates, you can only apply for assistance for the portion of the apartment, for the portion of the rent for the apartment that you're responsible for. However, if you and another roommate want to apply for assistance, you and that other roommate have to apply together as one household, and you have to state what your total income is for your household.
Mm-hmm.
And how long is this application process going to take?
Well, based upon my experience with tenants who filled out the previous rent relief program, typically it would take HCR, and when I say HCR, it's the Housing Community Renewal Division, which they're in charge of managing this rent relief program, and they process the applications and they actually pay out the checks to the landlord. They take from 1 month to 3 months to process the application, determine whether a tenant is eligible or not, and then to, send out the checks to the landlord.
And Renee, what if I applied and I was rejected by the former rent relief program? What can I do now?
So if you were rejected by the rent relief program from 2020, July 2020, you don't have to worry about reapplying. The agency, the state housing agency, will review all of those applications that were either denied or maybe, as I mentioned earlier, might have simply been in the pipeline, but the process had not been concluded. So HCR, Housing Community Renewal of the State of New York, will be reviewing and determining the eligibility of those old applications. And they will be sending notifications to those tenants, informing them of either an approval or denial of their applications for this new rent relief program. I want to add that there's a chance, by the way, that some of the folks who applied last year and were denied, there's a possibility they may qualify, they may get approved this year, because this year the program isn't focusing on rent burdens prior to March of 2020. The focus is more on rent burdens that have happened between April and July 31st of 2020.
So Renee, if I applied in the prior program, I don't have to submit another application and I don't have to do anything?
Correct. That's correct.
And how would I know that my prior application that was rejected will be reviewed?
Well, how would you know? Well, you can call the HCR office. Later in the PowerPoint, there's another slide where there's a 800 number where folks interested in the program can call to get information. They can also call to get help to apply with the help of an HCR staffer by communicating the information on a phone call. Of course, you're still going to be expected to get the documentation, the backup documentation, to the HCR rent relief processing office, but at least the application information can be managed by a staffer over the phone, in a conversation over the phone, and entered into the online application on behalf of the renter, the tenant.
Okay.
So go ahead.
So the people that were rejected the first round for the first program will receive a notice in the mail stating that they could be reviewed for this new rent relief program, and if they need any additional information from them, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, correct. Also, this is in another slide. Nicole, do you have the slide information next to you or in front of you anywhere? So I just wanted to add also that, I'm sorry?
Sorry, I was like muted. Which slide?
Do you have the slide info, that we had shared? Like which slide goes with which question?
Yeah,
and so
those are
on?
the ones. Yeah, those are the ones I'm trying to follow.
Okay. Well, so I just want to add that those folks who are eligible for the rent relief, that they will be notified, and the owner will be notified when they've been approved and when a payment has been sent. and the renters are asked to put the notification of the rent relief payment, put it in a safe place, because that will serve as their proof that the state's housing office sent the check or made the payment to the owner. And that no one can claim that, oh no, there's no evidence of a check or a rent payment being sent out. Does that answer your question, Rosalinda?
Yes. Thank you, Renee.
So
Renee,
any other questions?
Do you want to talk about the hardship form?
The hardship form. Oh, so Nicole, can you pull that slide up?
I think it's towards the end, yeah.
Towards the end?
Number 19? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is not quite related to the rent relief bill, or I should say the rent relief programs, extension program. However, it's good to know we're going to have another, by the way, for folks on the call, we're going to have another Zoom event in a couple of weeks where we're going to go into much greater detail about this New York State tenant declaration of hardship form due to COVID-19, and we were getting into some of the recent state orders, rules, regulations that were declared within the last couple of weeks in terms of moratoriums and so on. So the New York State Tenant Declaration of Hardship form is a form that tenants can fill out and sign. There are a couple of, they have to check off certain boxes, and then they have to sign the form and give it to the owner in the event that they're unable to either make the rent payments. Maybe they've received some sort of notice regarding an eviction, filing of an eviction case or a holdover case or a non-payment case. They can provide this hardship form to the owner, and the courts, if necessary, this submission of this form will stop any sorts of legal actions that might be either in the pipeline or might be on the verge of being submitted in the court.
Thanks, Renee. We have some questions in the chat. I don't know if we're done with the presentation. We do want to share our information, Nicole. Anybody here that would like some assistance applying for this new rent relief program, you can reach the 833 number that's on the screen. HCR also has a website. Their call center, they're available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. If you feel comfortable with us here, panelists, you could call Juanaides Rivas, our senior tenant counselor. She's not on our webinar tonight, but she is available to assist you. Her number is on the screen. It's on the screen. If you're a senior, 60 or older, you could reach Nicole Gonzalez. And for Brooklyn Legal Services, Trisha, this is their general number. You could call and they can provide any assistance as well.
Or you can email them at
at info@bka.org.
Right. Great. So the questions in the chat?
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, so
I can
we
help you with that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you got it, Nicole?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I can ask you guys so you can handle the if you know the answer I'm saying. So
you could start with there was one person
Spanish.
Yeah, they wanted to know if the orientation would be only in English.
Yeah. I wonder if they're still on the call.
I did reply to señora Carmen, no sé si usted sigue aquí en la línea. Yo le respondí a su pregunta que ahorita la orientación está solo en inglés. La persona que iba a traducir, no pudo estar con nosotros hoy, pero en la pantalla está mostrando el número de la señora Juana Iris, el 914. Si usted necesita un poquito más de ayuda, perdón, que estamos hablando en la presentación era del programa ayuda, un poco de asistencia para las personas, inquilinos que no han podido pagar la renta. Y si usted necesitaba ayuda para aplicar para ese nuevo programa que se vencerá el 1 de febrero, podría llamar a la señora Juana Iris o a la señorita Nicole. Ahí están los números apareciendo ahorita en la pantalla. No sé si usted sigue aquí, señora Carmen.
Sí, ella dice que está ahí todavía.
Oh, ok. So, sí, favor de anotar los números que le acabo de indicar para que le podríamos dar un poquito más de información.
Y ayudarle a aplicar.
Sí.
Sí. Señora, hay que aplicar antes del 1 de febrero.
Ujú.
El programa se vence el 1 de febrero. Después de esa fecha, la Oficina de Vivienda del Estado no aceptará más aplicaciones de ayuda para ayuda con la renta atrasada.
So she's asking if someone has HRA. Wait. Oh no, she's asking that she's applied for HRA, but they haven't answered. I think that's a different question though.
Is she talking about a one-shot deal?
Yeah. Señora, usted está
Probably, yeah.
hablando, cuando usted pregunta su pregunta sobre la HRA, ayuda como para pagar renta atrasada, ¿eso está preguntando usted? Porque está diciendo para el mes de noviembre, diciembre y enero. Would this cover prior months, Trisha? This new rent relief program?
No, it only covers the
No, it's
months of
just-
April, May, June, and July of 2020.
Right.
Oh, okay. So, señora, este programa solo cubre renta atrasada de abril, mayo, junio y julio del año 2020. No sé si esto es parte de su pregunta. Okay. We'll wait for her to answer. Nicole, you go to the next one.
Okay, got it.
For Sandy, I think. Yeah.
Give me 1 second. It's not out too fast. From Sandy, right?
Sandy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sandy says, we received an email stating denied application.
Wait,
will
no,
be-
there's one before that, Renee.
Yeah.
for
For
someone
someone,
applying. Go ahead, Nicole. Sorry.
okay. For someone applying for the first time, will the proof of income need to be provided? Need to be provided to be what?
For the
the
months in
month
question. Yes,
or current months?
the months in question.
So she's saying like
Yeah,
her,
so
her
April.
yeah.
Yeah. The focus is on a hardship, financial hardship that happened between April of last year and July 31st of last year. That's the focus of this program.
So she would
So
have to
if there
show
was no
proof, right?
hardship during those months, if there was no financial hardship to pay the rent during those months, then those folks will not be eligible for the rent relief.
Correct. So then she said,
That's when she sent the email.
go
Yeah.
ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, that's when she sent. After that, she has sent the email that she received an email stating denied application. Will be reviewed once again. I don't know if it was more of like a comment.
Yeah.
Well, if she applied last year, right, for the first version of the rent relief program, and she was denied, they will be reviewing those applications that were denied last year automatically. There's no, the tenants don't have to make a special request or submit another application to have their applications reviewed. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
After that, we do have the comments in Spanish, so we kind of addressed that already. So Mrs. Espinosa asks, do the landlords have to complete paperwork as well?
The
No.
program, no, they don't. However, landlords, they must and are obligated to send tenants the what is it, the declaration of hardship when it comes to the declaration, the hardship declaration that Renee mentioned before, that is in connection with the recent legislation that was passed by Governor Cuomo, the COVID-19 Emergency Prevention Act. It allows for tenants and homeowners to receive protections if they've been negatively affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So tenants should be on the lookout from the hardship declaration from their landlords. And tenants, you should, if the hardship declaration applies to you and that you lost income as a result of COVID-19, among other factors that you have to read the declaration to see if it applies to you, you should fill it out, send it to your landlord, and or if you have a housing court case presently pending against you, you should submit it to the court. But as for the HCR rent relief program, no, the landlord doesn't have to fill out extra paperwork in order for you to participate.
Correct. This is strictly a tenant renter focused process. And so renters, tenants have to provide the information and the documentation in order to have an application processed.
Renee, I guess only the landlord would need to provide either a lease or some type of letter stating the tenant, like how much is their monthly rent and how much they're in arrears, correct?
Well, yes, hopefully, if there's a lease and it's a valid lease, it hasn't expired, the tenants will have a copy. That's typically that's supposed to happen. They should have a copy of their lease, right?
Yes.
Now, of course, if there is no lease, if it's a month-to-month arrangement, then yes, it would be helpful to have, a letter from the owner stating that the tenant resides at such and such an address and they pay X amount of rent, and perhaps they've missed X amount of months of rent and so on. But still, the tenants have to get that letter, if that's the case, from the owner, and the tenants are responsible for submitting it to the HCR. It's not the owners are not going to be the ones expected to provide that info, that documentation to HCR. Right?
Yes, thanks, Renee.
Sure, yeah, de nada.
Yeah, we had some other comments in Spanish. I don't know if you want to.
Okay,
So the lady.
One more thing. Sorry, guys. I know on the website also, if the tenant unfortunately is unable to receive a letter from their landlord stating that they are a month-to-month tenant, if there is no lease, they can fill out a tenant attestation form and upload it with their application. It's basically the tenant declaring that they are a tenant and they pay a certain amount of rent each month, and they just have to sign it and submit it to HCR.
Right. Thank you, Tricia. So Carmen is asking si hay otro programa que me pueden ayudar para pagar renta atrasada. So
she's asking if there's another program that would help her pay for rent arrears that would cover other months out of the April to July. And yeah, right, Renee, she could
she needs to call either Nicole or Juana Iris so that they can check with HRA to find out what's the status of her application.
Got it.
Right? Because she says she hasn't heard yes or no, like in terms of the processing of her application. So we would need to help her to find out what has happened, if anything. Yeah. Right? What's the status of her application? And then let's say they say that her application was denied, then maybe we'll have to look at some other possibilities, because we don't really know how she's dealing with her rent, generally speaking,
Thanks, Nicole. I'm just gonna.
Yeah. So la mejor opción que tendría señora Carmen sería comunicarse con la oficina, sería comunicarse con nosotros, Juana Iris o conmigo, Nicole, y nosotros podemos chequear ahí su estado, porque también cada caso puede ser diferente. Entonces, si se comunica con nosotros, nosotros podemos ayudar y podemos chequear cómo va su estado y podemos buscar si hay otro programa que de pronto le sirva mejor.
Thanks,
Y de nuevo, we put the information, pusimos la información en la pantalla para que pudieran comunicarse. Esta es la información de todos nosotros. We have the information in the screen again, just so you guys can, if you didn't take it before, you can take a picture or write it down now, so you can contact us and we can assist you further.
Yeah, I also put it in the chat for her just in case.
Oh, perfect.
And yeah.
Any other questions in the chat?
Yeah, one more.
Where's my chat?
So we have Carla Espinosa, does CHLDC assist applicants who live in other neighborhoods?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, we do.
Nicole, do you have our hotline number that Miss Carla can have?
I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you. So yeah, Miss Carla, if anything, Cypress Hills has tons of programs depending on, we have a lot of programs available for folks. So if you want to share it with other people, more than welcome to.
So again, let me mention a couple of quick things. Nicole, at the beginning of the Zoom event, announced that the presentation has been recorded or is being recorded, and it'll be available, on the agency's website, Facebook posting, and so for future reference, you can go back and look at the PowerPoint, and of course, the video as well as the audio will be available, for your free use to get to the information again later in the road. And of course, you can inform other friends, relatives to check out the recording for the information about New York State's rent relief extension program. Right? So let's see, anything else? Was that the last question in the chat, Nicole?
I think something else came up. Let me just make sure.
Oh, and I'm just sharing with everyone our website, cypresshills.org. We have our resource guide there. We have updates on the COVID-19. So if you guys want to also check that out, that's great. Para las personas que hablan español, Nicole acaba de poner en el chat el número de información de la agencia. También pusimos el enlace pusimos el sitio de internet de la organización donde usted podría entrar y ver más información que tenemos. Tenemos un guía de recursos, tenemos actualizaciones sobre la información de la pandemia y tenemos más programas ahí que podrían ver en nuestra página de internet.
Yes. So, is that it for the chat?
Yes.
I'll also put DKA's website in the chat as well.
Great.
In case people want to know it.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
So thanks to everyone for your participation, and we look forward to hearing from you again. I want to thank, of course, Tricia Lindor from Brooklyn Legal Services Corporation A, and Rosalinda and Nicole and LDC staffers who happen to be on the Zoom, along with Michelle Neugebauer, the Executive Director. Appreciate that support. So have a safe evening, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. And let me quickly mention that in a couple of weeks, we're going to have another Zoom presentation where we'll be delving into the recent legislation, state legislation concerning, protections for tenants, owners, moratoria, etc. Thanks again. Thanks so much.